What's good, y'all? We're back at it again with the All Facts podcast here, and big news today. Big news, as I finally have a co-host, and he's been on the pod before, and I would like him to introduce himself.
Hey guys, it's me Haroon. I was in the deep web video.
That was a fun video to record.
It was a fun video to record, and me and Hars talk a lot, like outside of video recording, and he said I have really good conversations. So we thought, why don't we just capture that on the podcast forever?
And Haroon is a very good addition just because of the fact that it was hard to do everything by myself. I needed someone by me, and he is a perfect co-host, as he'll be the greatest co-host of all time.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. You're warming my heart.
Okay, so the topic we're actually going to discuss today is not really about sports. It's not about general knowledge. It's about what's happening in the world. So it's going to be a very serious topic. So if you're very sensitive, we don't really mean it in a way. We're just speaking based on our opinion. And I'm going to think, Haroon, what is your opinion on this? Because you seem to be very conservative with these type of topics.
Listen, it was tragic what happened in Afghanistan, the Taliban's invasion. And,
It is a tragedy, yes, I agree.
there also seems to be a lot of corruption within the politics of Afghanistan. The president just left with a big bag of money and moved to UAE.
You know why he did?
And he probably sold the land to the Taliban, dude. Like, he just left. He up and went. And the army didn't even fire at the Taliban. They were trained by the US. They were given guns, and they just didn't shoot.
Yes, because of what's his name, Ashraf Ghani did. Because he left, and then now the Taliban have full control, right? That's basically what it is. And then,
No. Yeah, I agree.
however, like, what do you think? Like, do you think what the Taliban are doing is correct? Yes or no?
No.
I'm just asking based on.
No,
And can you elaborate on that?
nah, definitely not. Like, the invasion of a country is never okay. And their policies also are very wrong. If you saw like those clips of them like using graffiti on models, like just on the street,
Yeah.
model screens.
And they like do they try to force a lot of marriages and stuff. Like they treat the women badly.
Very radical views. They're very hard on outsiders. They believe all people who do not follow their beliefs should be killed, which is wrong. But what's even more wrong, I believe, is how the United States chose not to, help Afghanistan. Joe Biden said, "I refuse to."
That's what I was gonna talk about.
He said, "I refuse to defend a country who won't defend themselves." That's like a quote right there. That's what he said, which is pretty wrong. But it's also like a double standard I noticed. Which is, nobody likes it when the U.S. involves themselves in foreign.
I think like the biggest problem was with the former leader in Ashraf Ghani. Like I don't know if it was easily not the right move for you to just let it happen. This just shows like he's kind of a puppet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know if like he's easily a puppet. 'Cause there's no way like he would just allow this to happen, and then he just leave, and then he just dips. He's like, okay, I'm out of here.
And he's probably living the good life too, just based off of that Afghanistan money, most valuable country in the world. $1 trillion of lithium.
Yeah, that's. Oh yeah, we were talking about that the other day too. Like when I came.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were talking about like that. What was it? Dubai and Saudi Arabia and Afghanistan.
Yeah, we're talking about the value of these nations.
Yo, so did we predict this happening? Like Ghani leaving then? Because we did say, like, the puppet ends up leaving, and then something will happen. And Afghanistan, because of its value, it's going to be attacked a lot more often.
I remember saying it's going to be a target because of its value, but I don't remember talking about the puppet leader.
We already know it's the wrong thing to do. How do you think the economy would do?
The economy is going to do pretty okay, I think, because of China's deal with the Taliban. I believe they did a deal for lithium exports, which means financially they're gonna do okay, but economy doesn't.
No, because according to the World Bank, right? Apparently Afghanistan was struggling, which makes sense because of what was happening there. But now that it's over, they probably wouldn't have to worry about all the because of them taking over.
I don't think there's gonna be much good in the economy. They're gonna make a lot of money for sure through selling the lithium, but economy is like money through society, you know, building society, and a society can't really build when everyone's trying to leave the country. You know, like the clips of people jumping on planes, mothers handing their children to U.S. soldiers, right?
Hmm. But it says right here the World Bank said now the Taliban is in charge. It's uncertain whether many any of those conditions will be met, potentially further reducing the foreign aid and country relies on including in the forms of SDRs. Which what is it? Okay, an SDR is an international reserve asset created by the IMF from a basket of currencies including US dollar, Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, and euro and British pound. And okay, so it's an artificial currency, so it's kind of like
It's
a
like a hedge fund of
uh
other monies.
mhm yeah. So you if you're thinking it's gonna go all right, so like what else is gonna go all right? Because you already mentioned that they're gonna sell lithium, and then
China wants to do a deal to sell it right now, but like I don't think that's gonna make a good economy. It's gonna
mm,
make the money for sure, but there's no real societal development and there's no real international relations besides China. You know, most countries don't want to recognize them as a government. Justin Trudeau's famous speech about not recognizing the Taliban, it's pretty brave.
yeah.
So I don't think it's gonna work too well for them. If they end up building good foreign relations, I'd be really surprised.
But do you think because of what's happened, do you think poverty would be reduced? Do you think there would be more things achieved? Do you think there will be ongoing peace talks? Yeah, I would say maybe some of it can be true, but
No.
not fully.
Pro- Problem is everyone's too stubborn to accept the Taliban, you know, and if no one interferes, which most likely people will, like the UN will band together to try to stop it. But if no one does, they're here to stay, you know. No one in Afghanistan wants is
Yeah, it's not even that. Yeah, it's like they would want to fight them, but then it's just they're taking over the country, so they're going against the law. Let's say.
So most likely, my prediction is the UN's gonna band together and fight the Taliban.
Really?
I mean, yeah, no one likes them, and they clearly don't like them back. So
But then like it's not like this isn't like the first time something like this has happened, and then nothing has really happened ever since that.
no, there's always proxy battles, right? Like unless you can give me an example.
An example of what? Like
Of this happening before in human history. Like before the
not
UN.
not as if the Taliban have been taken over a country, let's say. But I'm saying like this isn't the first time like a Taliban attack has happened. This isn't the first time the Taliban has been like risen from a political view. This is like the first time it's taken over a country. But
Yeah,
the UN will probably do its best to do that, but I don't think they will do it entirely.
no, I believe they will. Just like kind of how they tried to suppress North Korea back in the day, back in the Cold War, and also Vietnam. I believe the Taliban's a similar situation
Yeah,
where
yeah.
radicalism rises in a nation and Western powers try to suppress it.
The thing is, Afghanistan has like a lot of its assets overseas, so the fact that the Taliban will have control of that, I think would be a lot harder for that, for the United Nations to do that. Even in an economical point of view, it probably won't do as much of a difference. Probably won't be as much of a difference.
Could you repeat that? I don't think I that whole speech right there. I didn't think I followed.
Which
Couldn't follow
part?
you there.
You couldn't follow. Okay, so I said it's because Afghanistan has a lot of assets overseas, right? Because it's a developing country.
Yeah.
And since the Taliban has all of that in like they basically control that, right? I think because of that, they have control of the economical sanctions, which will not make the economy much different, and the United Nations probably and it's probably going to be harder for the United Nations to do that because they have so many assets
But
overseas.
like overseas assets doesn't mean much, especially with the lithium compensation, right? $1 trillion worth of natural resources.
Mm. Yeah, you could be right, but I'm saying I don't know if the United Nations will do like they will probably do something. I could be wrong on that, but my point is
Because you also gotta
they're easily.
you also gotta understand, right? The Taliban's not gonna stop in Afghanistan. They're gonna try to spread their sphere of influence,
Hmm.
right?
But
Starting
I
with
think
like,
it would be a much bigger issue when, but it'll be a much bigger issue when the United Nations enters because if they can fight the United not fight if they can have if they have that going on then they'd easily take it over more countries
what do you mean by that?
because of the fact that the United Nations are if they do something right that's your point you're saying they're going to do something that's going to reduce them from fighting over countries right I'm thinking if they did do that, it might help the Taliban to support because if they fight off the United Nations, then that's not game over. It's just they'll easily have more resources to use, and then easily take over countries like that.
But but they can't win, because it's not just the Taliban's like a small like militia, like a small army
It is a small army. Yeah, I
compared
know. I
to
know.
compared to the resources
I'm not saying they'll take over.
compared to the
Since they have taken
resources.
over the most valuable country, or one of the most valuable countries, it's going to be a lot easier for them to do it. And if the United Nations enters, then it's going to create a lot bigger of a conflict.
A lot easier to fight off
No,
the
it's a lot
UN.
easier to take over countries.
Uh, Not only if other countries agree to buy your resources.
But that's the thing. Afghanistan is the not the most valuable. Maybe it is, but it's one of the most valuable.
I believe they're sanctioned though, which means that just means every nation has unanimously agreed to stop doing business with this country. So they're not gonna buy resources off of them, and they're not gonna export guns to them. So it is much harder for them to spread their sphere of influence,
Mm.
and it'll be easy for an invasion and a return to power.
Also, actually, yeah, you could be right there because it says right here in some article I have it says the Taliban only have access to like a small amount of the central bank funds in Afghanistan.
Yeah, it'll definitely not be enough to grow an army and increase your weaponry
Hmm.
compared to the resources of multiple countries, multiple superpowers, in fact.
Also, I do think because like even if the Taliban has all those sources, right? Like, would it be legal?
Everything they're doing right now is not legal, so I don't think that'll ever stop them.
Exactly. Exactly. No, but since it's not legal, wouldn't it be a lot? It would definitely be a lot more criminalized and then they can not collapse, but it can lead to more corruption and collapse or to their collapse.
No, because if you're
Because like, where else? Like, where are they planning to go next?
most likely Iran and Pakistan, because those are the nations right next to them, and then they're
Probably.
gonna spread through there.
Hmm. However, those countries, I don't know about Iran, but Pakistan does have a great like a great infrastructure going on.
I think,
Hello?
yeah, I hear you. I think it's less about invading, like through military force, and spreading their influence
Hmm.
to those nations. Like maybe some Iranians or Pakistanis believe in the Taliban's word, and that might get them to join their army.
Yeah, and because of that, that's how they're gonna spread. But then, if all that's illegal, then what can the United Nations do?
They can attack, they have the right to, and if every nation agrees to it, which all of them do, then an invasion can't be put in place. It's very easy for them to start an attack.
That would take years though for to happen though.
Why?
No, no, to like take them down.
I doubt it would take years if, if the U.S. Army, the Canadian Army, the British Army, etc., etc., if they all like went and attacked the Taliban, it shouldn't take years or it.
But my point, my point is like to get all of them to agree to fight. And yeah, like they probably will, but I think them to agree with each other is going to be a lot more difficult than to just fight it off.
That's true, especially since the U.S. said they don't agree to fight against to defend Afghanistan.
Hmm.
And there's a big problem with that too, because they started the mess.
Basically,
If you
basically whatever happened in like in like the Middle Eastern area, right?
if you
A
remember,
lot of it links with the U.S.
if you know what happened specifically, for those of you who don't know, the Soviet Union wanted to take over this land called Afghanistan, and the United States Army started hiring these private militias, including the
Oh
Mujahideen, to
yeah.
fight off the Soviet Union. Which once they successfully did, they formed their own influence and their own terrorist organization. So it's their mess, that they have to clean up. This, they,
That's how no. That's how they had all these like puppets in that area. Like that's how Ashraf Ghani was there. That's how. Uh,
yeah,
I don't know what's his name. The Iranian guy. I forgot his name.
yeah, but yeah, exactly. So like, it's their mess to clean up. And I was going back to why some people care.
That's why. Yeah. No. That's why I said it's a lot harder because the U.S. started this and they're putting no effort to try to finish it off. It's gonna be a lot harder to just finish this conflict.
If it affects enough people, then I think everyone will band together.
And what defeat the U.S. or will the U.S. enter and like become?
Or no, the Taliban, because eventually it will affect everyone.
Hmm.
These are all greedy
Yeah, but
organizations.
I think that can take years too if it'll like affect every single one.
Yeah, that could be true. But I feel like if it affects enough powerful people, that's all that you really need.
But I think where you when you say like, oh, is the U.S. mess that they created, which is true. Maybe that's why the U.S. is just a little more reserved in saying, no, we're not going to do it because they easily know it was their conflict. They probably just don't want
Yeah,
to do
and it's a
anything.
little.
Which is kind of sad. Which is kind of sad because if this thing happened and like that's just pretty
It's
sad.
also it's ironic, that they love to get themselves involved in stuff that they're not supposed to get involved in, like Syria or Vietnam or Libya, but they don't want to get involved in
Mm.
their own mess. Afghanistan.
And yeah, basically any organization or like well, a terrorist organization.
What else do you think there is to cover? Yeah,
Well, we did. We talked about like our opinions on it and like in the economical point of view and the U and everything about the United Nations. So, well, okay, so I'll just say like what's there to expect in the future. And to me, like I'll just say like the Taliban will probably grow, but then if unless the United Nations do something, they're just gonna continue to grow.
you think so?
And and I don't know like if there's any way and anything to stop it because and everyone does hate the Taliban, but people in Afghanistan just don't are afraid to fight the Taliban, as you said, and because of that, they'll settle there for a very long time, and I'm not saying they're gonna continue to grow like rapidly, but it's gonna be in small parts.
There's also the possibility that the people get enough and they're tired of it and they start a revolution. Which would
In
yeah,
Afghanistan,
which would be easy for everyone. The foreign nations could just send weapons to the people, and the people start fighting the Taliban. That's always a possibility.
yeah, makes a lot more sense. But I would say like, oh, actually, I forgot what I think I was gonna say something about like even if the UN does it, like the Taliban will still be a thing.
Yeah, but it'll kind of be like ISIS, how like they're not actually a threat anymore, right? Even if they exist,
Hmm. But then that can lead to like a new, a new thing going forward. Like that can just lead to all of them agreeing to terms, and then just fighting, and then or not
I mean
fighting,
that's a
just
problem for another
doing
time.
what they do.
Right now, you got to deal with the main issue, which is Afghanistan's.
Yeah, I know, but this is I know, but that's what we're talking about right now. We're talking about what to expect in the future.
I do genuinely think in the future, if we gotta know like the best possible outcome, worst possible outcome, right? That's what we gotta determine right now.
That's the worst possible outcome. What I just said. The best possible outcome is what you said with the what do you call it? Everyone just well not agree. It's just that everyone just not teaming up with the Taliban. The everyone just having enough of
But
it, and then
revolution.
probably kinda, and hopefully the U.S. and like Britain can all attack because that was the example you gave, or something like that.
Yeah, foreign involvement and revolution from the people. Like if those two factors band together, it could be a pretty good perspective right there.
Yeah, but it'll be a lot harder to do that, in my
Because the
opinion.
Taliban's not, that powerful, right? The only reason they're able to invade is because the Afghani army did nothing at all.
Basically, and the Ashraf Ghani
Yeah,
basically.
leaving, basically inviting them to take over.
Yeah, that I was never really a big fan of him as a leader. It's not that I really know much about politics, and if you've heard me in this podcast, like you guys just know, like I'm speaking to the fans here, they just know I'm not really big of a politics mind. But like you can just tell, like this is like not a real leader.
Yeah, none of us are really knowledgeable in this. We're just based off the stuff we're hearing, right? Just on the news and stuff. That's just our thoughts.
Yeah, and all the articles I've been reading.
It's
About
more of a
this.
rant than it is like a educated assumption. So, the
It could be an educated assumption because we were talking about like what can happen.
yeah, it could be. But someone who's been studying this for a longer time, putting more effort into it, would probably tell us we're both idiots.
Basically.
So comment section, don't give us too much hate, right? We want to cover the topics. We want to give our condolences to the people of Afghanistan.
Of
We're gonna
course,
link
yeah.
some links in the description to help you donate.
And we respect the Afghans in the world. We respect them a whole lot.
We'll give some charities that you could go to in the description to support the people. Real quick though, speaking of that, real quick, it's kind of funny how like there's petitions to stop the Taliban, like on petitions.com. You see
Yeah,
those?
yeah, I think I've seen that.
It's like Emily Akab is like, stop the Taliban, they're a corrupt organization. 100 signatures and we'll kick them out.
That's why, when a lot of people say like save Afghanistan on their stories, like I'm not really a big fan of that because like, what do you really do with that? Like, it just shows you support Afghanistan. Yeah, like who wouldn't support Afghanistan?
I mean, here's the thing, especially let's say with Canada, right? Canada has a pretty strong army, and with enough Save Afghanistan hashtags, some political leader can see that a lot of people support the rescuing of Afghanistan, and he can use that towards his election, especially now that elections are coming up.
That is right. That is true. That
So
is
it's
true.
bringing awareness to what the people want, which is always a good thing.
But yeah, that's what the petitions are. That's what the petitions are for. Yeah, the 100 signatures, boom, they're done.
Yeah, but social media shares are more effective than petitions. What's a petition?
Yeah, but don't you share petitions on social media?
Well, the way petitions work is someone has to agree to the petition. Someone has to go like, okay, if you get 100 signatures right now, I will personally go to Afghanistan and fight the Taliban. But none of that happens. There's just some girl that makes a petition and
Yeah, that is
get
true.
signatures.
That is true.
There's
That
no
is true.
like formal agreement.
I would say like a much efficient way of doing it is just charity, and then if they because these charity programs can look at, or someone can just look at that and say, oh, okay, a lot of people do this, then or like even the Canadian Army could even just see that and say, oh, okay, this is a lot of people support this.
Charities
Uh,
have,
we'll, we'll,
charities
we'll
have
link
a much more different purpose though. I think it's supposed to send food and humanity.
send food. I know. I'm not saying it's supposed to fight them. I'm not saying it's supposed to
Yeah.
fight them. I'm saying they can see that and say, okay, yeah, let's. Do
I
something
agree.
with this.
But it's supposed to send humanitarian aid. Maybe planes to send the people away. And if more people leave Afghanistan, then the Taliban has less people to use as leverage. Right? You can't really build an economy off of like 1,000 soldiers.
But you know what's really sad about this, right? Like, Afghanistan was in a war for such a long time. It just happened.
Because they didn't want to shut it down, America just wanted to train the Afghani army. That's all they really did.
But then they didn't do anything. Like, that's the sad part.
I feel like if they actually put effort into like sending troops in, actually fighting them, And then the war would have been over much sooner. You know, you could have stopped it before it grew to what it is now.
Yeah, you're right. I saw the CTV news article. It says Canadian Armed Forces personnel on ground in Afghanistan. So is that a good start?
Definitely a good start.
Yes, it's definitely a good
It's
start.
Canada cleaning up America's mess.
However, like that exactly. Actually we didn't really speak about it. We could have just said, like when we talked about like what will happen in the future and how to stop this problem. You could have just said we could have said like countries could send armed forces personnel and assets on in Afghanistan to see what the problem actually is.
I guess that kind of fits in with UN also, because the UN is just an amalgamation of other countries.
Yeah, there are countries though that don't have a representative for the UN,
Yeah, that's,
such as Afghanistan.
I think
The last all the information I've seen like from what the UN has about Afghanistan was like 20 years ago.
really, because I thought every
Yeah.
country had like a seat, but like only like the really powerful ones had like permanent seats.
Yeah, yeah. But apparently they don't have. I don't think they have one in South Africa either. I should check.
Because from what I read like a while ago, the only countries that don't have a seat are like sovereign states, like
Wait,
Palestine.
let me see the. Yeah, I like it's over
Yeah.
with that, right? Wait, let me search it up. What countries that don't have a. Are you serious?
Is
No.
there like a really long list?
I don't know, like. No, it didn't even load. It's like taking time to load.
You
Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. It's still loading now. Oh, it's not a very long list, but it's a lot of the countries like you can see it makes a lot of sense.
give
Like Taiwan, Northern
yeah.
Cyprus, Kosovo. Yeah, it's just that's
Taiwan makes a lot of sense. You know, China doesn't recognize Taiwan.
yeah, because what do you call it? China doesn't like Taiwan. Yeah, see, yeah, because look, it says the United Nations has added. Oh, in a sense, it's founding.
Yeah, because there's actually a funny clip in what's it called from the World Health Organization, right? Where some reporter was interviewing one of the members, and she talks about how there are no COVID cases in Taiwan, right? And how Taiwan has had like 9 cases.
Oh yeah, you told me that. You told me about that because they did their own they made their own vaccine.
They have like natural medicine that they use.
Yeah, natural medicine.
But there's been like 9 deaths since like the entire pandemic began. The guy like pauses for.
And China, and yeah, I know because China has beef with Taiwan, they chose to like shut that
Then
down.
he like
right?
cut. He like paused for a good 5 minutes trying to think of what to say, and then he goes, "Yeah, man, China's been doing a great job protecting its citizens from COVID-19."
Oh yeah.
He was very careful of what he would say about Taiwan because of
But
China.
actually, speaking about that,
Yeah.
China actually has done a good job with their COVID-19 compared to like Canada and US.
That is true. They're doing something right. I guess that's kind of like what Justin Trudeau said about authoritarianism. There's like a speech of him saying how he likes the Chinese government because dictatorship gives room to do stuff fast. Which obviously I don't like Chinese Communist Party. I don't think anyone who likes freedom does.
Yeah,
But
who would?
one advantage it does have, which is it's very easy to just have laws, just right then and there. Like President Xi can go,
Yeah.
all right now all of you quarantine. I don't want to see anyone out of their house unless you want to get arrested. Something
Yeah.
a democratic leader can't really do because there's a lot of steps to making new laws.
Yeah, or it's either you end up like that, or you can end up like Italy, where it got out of hand and then people start dying. But Italy has done a pretty good job with that too, so it's not.
I mean, this could also be classified as a crisis scenario. In that case, the current leader gets dictator rights. Kind of like the Quebec crisis in Canada. Except that's more for military threat
Yeah.
instead of just any threat altogether. I think that should be changed. So that during
Okay. Oh yeah, continue.
so
Yeah.
that during COVID, like leaders have access to making new laws just right off the whim, and they can make lockdowns easier. They don't have to have a representative until COVID cases are much lower, and then crisis is averted.
Yeah, I see that. I can see that. So, alright, so we basically have covered this topic about what we see can happen for Afghanistan, like the good outcomes, the bad outcomes, and I'm joined by Haroon as my co-host. Would you like to say anything before we're
Well, I
done?
think we've covered everything pretty well. We'll keep you
Um,
posted if anything new comes up, anything interesting.
and follow all the socials. Follow like basically everything. Follow Twitter. Follow Instagram. Follow TikTok. We're gonna decide to put stuff on TikTok now.
It's
So
clips.
just stay tuned for everything.
Yeah, we'll leave all those in the description along with links to help fundraise the people of Afghanistan.
Of course, I forgot. I don't know how I forgot about that. And charities for that too. So this is the end of the All Facts podcast, and I'm
I'm
Harsakar,
Haroon
and
Moammer.
with me is
I'm Haroon Moammer. Too soon?
and this is All Facts No Cap. Alright, so before you go on and enjoy the rest of your day, Haroon and I really appreciate that you guys would really listen to this episode. And on a side note, Haroon and I really hope that all these countries that are dealing with a lot of troubles, they end up having a better result, and they also end up being in a much better position than what they actually are. As Afghanistan is dealing with a lot of troubles, the Uyghurs are dealing with a lot of troubles, Palestine is dealing with a lot of troubles, Lebanon is dealing with a lot of troubles, Yemen is dealing with a lot of troubles, Somalia is dealing with a lot of trouble. There's many countries out there that are dealing with a lot of troubles, and this is just really a humanitarian crisis, as we are all a human race. As if one person is sad, we're all sad. If one person is happy, we're all happy. That's how it should be. That's how we as a community should be. And just to give you some advice is to spread way more awareness, like the charities in the description. And we also Haroon, I really thank you for listening to this episode, and we really hope there's so much more content in the future. And as we are making this episode to show that we are on their side, we should pray for the best of outcomes, for all the other countries. And we hope Lebanon has a better outcome, Syria has a better outcome, Yemen has a better outcome. Hopefully a lot of these issues will be solved, and all these countries will live happily and peacefully. So thank you for listening to this episode. As I'm Harsakar, this is the All Facts Podcast, and we're out.